I'm back for book two. And I'm telling you, these are my confessions. So, like, don't laugh at me, but I think that I have to make sure that you know that my journey as an author has not been perfect. So, while my first book, which I talked about previously, which was Company Keepers Dance Ministry Daily, that was the book that changed my life. My second book had to fix my mentality because sometimes when you strike gold in a spot, you think that you can keep hitting that spot and you're going to keep striking gold. Well, I struck out. So I'm going to tell you about it, and I'm also going to help you navigate through it so that you know that if your first project wasn't that great of a success, or if you had a book that didn't do that well, you don't give up on your authorship journey. Okay, so this is how my second book was a bust. Okay, so Overachieving Me did this first book that was 365 pages. Okay, so I thought since book one did so well, hey, let me put out another book. Now, this is something that you might have heard, and this is something that you might not know. The first book that I published was not the first book I wrote. And what I'm saying is, I had previously written a collective of things. So instead of publishing that first, I decided to publish Company Keepers first. So we talked about that, right? Okay, so my second book, y'all, for this cause I bow my knees, a moving testament. And while I thought that I was doing great to have my own publishing company, which at that time was Renaissance Publications, and I was less ambitious this time because this book is definitely not as thick as this book, guy. I made some missteps, and let's talk about it. Okay. So first of all, here's what went wrong. Number one, you need to have friends that tell you the truth. A lot of people will celebrate you because they don't want to be labeled haters if they don't support you. And the truth is, sometimes we're doing bootleg stuff and nobody wants to hurt our feelings, so they cheer for us anyway, even when we mess up. Okay, so one of my friends came up to me and they was like, girl, what was that? And I'm like, I know. So they questioned, like, how do you have this stellar book and then you follow it up with this mess? And she didn't say it like that, but I knew what she was talking about because it really wasn't that great of a work. So here's some of the things that I know went wrong with this book. Number one, my content. My content was not cohesive. So when I did my first book, it was a daily devotional. So every single day made sense and it tied it all together. So my second book was like a collective of different writings, some research that I had done, and it was still in dance. So I still had an audience, right? But I think the timing of things, the first book was relevant. The first book spoke to the times. The first book was cutting edge. The second book was dusty. The second book didn't speak to people as much. So I did research like Old Testament, New Testament, and then I did like a couple of articles that I had done, and like the font was all crazy. I used papyrus, y'all. Papyrus font in this book. Oh my gosh. Okay, so it wasn't as relevant. And I will say this, like I say to people all the time, you can miss your moment. So people who are taking 10 years, even a year, to publish something that's relevant now, later, it might not hit the way that you want it to because it's not a word for that season. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't as relevant. And we do that and we drag our feet and we try to say everything is in God's timing when the truth is some of it was our procrastination. Okay? Procrastination does not help us. I always say perfectionism leads to procrastination, but excellence leads to implementation. So I procrastinated and it was just dusty. All right. So also, even though I had studied the publishing industry and I knew what to do on the outside of my book, I knew that I needed a professional graphic designer. I knew my book cover needed to be a certain way. I know I needed to have my brand mark a certain way. I did not study interior formatting the way that I studied the industry. So like, it was just wrong. It was wrong. Okay. There was spaces in between paragraphs. It wasn't indented properly. Then I had tabs. You're not supposed to tab. Then I tried to take license with how the pages were. It's just a raggedy mess. Okay? So this is why when I do teach and train authors now, I let them know this is the standard. This is how you format a book. You need to go to the bookstore. I tell everybody to do that. Open up a book. See what it looks like on the inside. Take pictures of that. Don't guess. And so many people do. So one of the things that I do when I do author expos, and I've done them across the country, is I do book reviews. So people bring their physical book copy to me, and I'm able to look at it and I'm give them feedback. And thankfully, some people do realize that it's not that they need to throw the proverbial baby out with the bathwater, but their book just needed a redo, right? So I did a midwife's makeover to make sure that the editing, the formatting, the layout was correct, that it was professional, so that the inside of their book was a bookstore quality book. My second book was not. Okay, so it wasn't cool. Also, font choices, like I didn't choose fonts that made sense. So now I'm looking, and I advise you to do this too. What fonts are they using on the insides of books? Go look. Take pictures of covers. What fonts are they using? What captures their attention? What imagery is being used? And that way you know, at least in the market, are you current on the market? Are you competitive on the market? Are you doing something that's throwback? Are you doing something that's futuristic? So every decision that you make should be a strategic decision about your book. But most people don't. So I open up books, the formatting is not right. So they'll have a nonfiction book with fiction formatting. Right? So that means that the title of the book and the author name are alternating. In a nonfiction book, it's the title of the book and the title of the chapter that alternate. So immediately I know that the book was not professionally done, even if you use a publisher. I know that you didn't know any better, so you put that book out, and effort may count. But once you know better, you do better. That's what it said, right? So if once you know better, you do better, then definitely, we have to make sure that we do the standard that is required, okay? So if you have published a book that's not great, you can redo it. But for this one, I decided not to. So what else happened to me? It was a downgrade. So it's like somebody putting out this blockbuster movie and then their second movie is a flop. It doesn't mean they give up. It means that they learn from that. So it was a downgrade from my previous work. I am not telling you to get a complex to say, I wrote a hit, I cannot write a hit again. You absolutely can, but know when something is out of season. And so I've said this before, and I'll say it to you if this is your first time hearing it. Some writings are rehearsals. So not every script makes it to the screen. Not every, script makes it to the stage, but it does build your muscle as a writer. So I want you to consider that. So if you have books that you are writing or you have written and you've just been working on it for so long, sometimes it's okay to let it go to do what's relevant for now. So if people are asking you about a hot topic or people asking you about a hot subject and it's something that you can address now, it's okay to move something old or stuck out of the way to make room for this new book that you have to get on the path and to help as many people as possible. Okay, so what did I do after this? Well, I just didn't push it as much. I didn't feel like it was worth going back and saving. I felt like it was okay that book was a rehearsal and to go forward. Also, at this time when I published that book, I was at a transition. So remember, my first book is how I became a midwife to over 1,000 authors worldwide eventually, because people liked the excellence that they saw. So in light of that, I put out a second book that wasn't that bad, but I also don't regret it because it does give me some empathy and I'm able to relate to people who kind of like mess up a project and they want to fix it. So what was happening at that time was then the publishing industry started to become bigger than the arts were for me at that time. So I was wearing these dual hats. I was in the arts. I had a dance company. I'm speaking all over the world about arts. But then people were calling me for publishing. So I decided to produce a book about publishing because I had an audience for that. And you know how I am about lanes, right? I don't believe in staying in your lane. I think that you can lane shift. And I think that as long as you know what your core talent is, and mine is teaching and training, that I have the ability to go into any industry that I'm qualified to serve in. So I started writing my next book on publishing. However, if I was going to take that on, that meant that I had to become the standard. And I tell people this all the time: if you're leading in your industry and you are feeling frustrated because people are not following you a certain way, or you're not getting the responses that you want, or you're not getting the results that you want, it's because you need to become the standard. So I researched formatting this time. So I made sure that my margins were correct. Some people have 1-inch margins all over their books, and it's not necessarily right for that. So I studied what the margin size should be. Gutters, what that is. I know this may be a new language to you, but I looked at that. I looked at the pages, and I wasn't supposed to just be making up creative expressions on pagination when there's actually a standard to where those page numbers start and stop. And if you can use, a Roman numerals for a certain part, what do? When do you stop numbering the pages? I also discovered that the first page of chapters in most nonfiction books does not have a running header. So I had to look at alternating headers and how they work. So when I fixed it, as I published my next book, I became better. So my encouragement to you is, as you do new projects, become better, have more knowledge, showcase that. Don't stay stuck. I do see people that publish books over and over again. It just kind of looks like a rinse and repeat of the last one, right? So don't get stuck with that. One of the things that I did to fix it, not only did I write to my new audience, which was authors. So I had this new audience of authors that I had to address. I also paired my next book with a larger aim, so that instead of just selling my books for profit, like a lot of people do, they think, I'm going to put my book online and it's going to sell millions and millions of copies. I learned to leverage my book for a profit, which meant that instead of just selling the book for the price point that was on the back of that book, I paired it with a publishing course, because I told you, as I did my first book, I was able to go into full-time business as an entrepreneur because I was doing e-courses, which email correspondence. People were emailing me and I was emailing them. So I was able to take this bigger at that time. Platforms were expanding, and then we did have online places to put assignments, and I didn't have to email individual assignments. So I then paired my next book with a course. They had to purchase that book for the course, and then I also was able to charge for the course. So it was like an upsell. So I really learned business on my second book. So my second book taught me what not to do. My second book taught me that there wasn't just one way to sell books, which meant that I didn't have to compete with a sea of other people online. As I positioned myself as an expert in the industry, I was able to leverage my book for profit. So it's okay to take a risk even if you fail. And I wanted to encourage you with that. So that was book number 2 of 19. I don't regret it, but I definitely learned from it. So as I told you, every single weekday for the month of March, until I run out of books to talk about, I'm going to be sharing the story behind the story. And, don't get too full of yourself. And at the same time, forgive yourself. So if you did something, if you made typos, listen, if I have a typo on social media, I have a fit and I have to go and fix it. But I've learned to be more forgiving of myself. I've learned not to be so judgmental. I've learned that when other people make mistakes, that at least I can offer a solution for how to fix it, instead of just pointing out how silly it was or how uninformed they were. I have become the solution to say, if you want to fix this, it can be fixed. But if you'd rather forget it, you can move on from it, okay? So tomorrow, I'm going to talk about my third book, which was still in the arts. But the reason why I want to talk about the story behind that story is I will share tomorrow about paired publishing, event-based book releases. So I don't think that you just have to release your book one way. Don't get stuck. Try different ways. Release your book in all different marketing types of ways to do it. So tomorrow I will talk about paired publishing. So how to, if you have a big event and you know that lots of people are coming, how do you strategically release a book at that event for it to have success and to spark your sales and for you to get social proof, okay? So my second book was a bust, but I learned how to be a beast because of it, okay? So I'm Rakisha Pittman. We are marching into publishing. Do not forget March 29th. I have a workshop here in Plano, Texas. It's March into Publishing from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. I would love for you to join me. I will be training a room full of authors live on how to set yourself up to take the fear out of publishing, to take the guesswork out of publishing, and to do what I do as my core talent, which is teach and train. Because, baby, I'm not trying to do your book for you. Okay? I will show you how to do it yourself so you can release as many books as you would like. All right. So if there is nothing else you love for this cause, I bow my knees. It was a mess though. It was bootleg, baby. It was bootleg. So I'm not going to take it off the market, but like maybe if I decide to put some new clothes on the baby, I might do it just so that it is current to show that I've learned from my mistakes, but like I moved on. And it's still available on Amazon. All right, you all. So have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll go hop on tomorrow and I'll teach you how to really launch your book at events and how to have success with that. And don't miss that because I'm going to give some real key things to help you increase your profits as an author. All right. So until then, if you have any questions and I see them, I will definitely answer them for you. Get your life right.